What do you do? Can you start? If the recorded version is there, let's start recording and continue, right? That is what we can do. Others will have their breakfast and leisurely come. Recording already started or not yet?
It's already started.
Already started. Because I should see last week's recorded video uploaded to the LMS. That may be due to another issue, right? But it is recorded. I think so. Because we started recording here. So it's recorded somewhere. For others, those were not here. Otherwise. But anyway, we are coming to the end of the semester. Have they decided the exam dates also or not yet?
Starting from 29th,
29th November.
yeah. The subject is
10th November. That means you'll have to start your study leave by next week or week after next.
I think after.
Week after next. It can be we get I have an MBA presentation workshop at my faculty, and we are going out that I won't be able to come Saturday and also Sunday. That we won't be able to have education operations management the next week. Hopefully, that will be the last day we work this time. Lucky to escape from presentations day.
Yeah.
Well, I was waiting to catch those who are not working during the presentation, because that is when I can realize to have contributed to the assignments, who have worked on the assignment, and then who have not been. We have missed that presentation part. We're going to miss one main part of evaluation. I'm happy. Anyway, let's see. I will talk to Jennifer and see whether I can do something on it. Otherwise, we will have to miss it. It could be the last lecture then. Because week after next, you can have study leave starts, right? Probably 2 weeks of study leave, and then starting the exams from there.
That's not communicated yet, so that's
But get communicated. Anyway, I have not confirmed that you will not have presentations. In case if we are to have it, week after next, let's make for 4 hours, then complete that part also. Until then, let's continue with the topics. Right. I thought of taking this topic, project management in operations, before the topic number 9, so that we can complete this part. Good morning to all of you. So far, we have discussed about different areas of operations management, so that at least now you have a simple idea about 7 to 8 different operations management decisions they have to make. So this topic talks about project management in operations, in which we try to cover a very simple content that helps you achieving these learning outcomes. Initially, to define what projects are, and then what project management is, and then our main, because this is the main subject. Project management itself is a subject, as you know. Sometimes you may have studied it. Have you? By chance? No. For your some other programs also? No, you have not studied. This itself is a subject that should be mastered. And in today's context, accounting professionals, finance professionals must know about project management. So they are into project management. The latest project management applications, software and all, you must be aware of and you must be familiar with. In this subject, in this topic, when we discuss it in operations management, our focus is to understand how project management is used in operation. It is one part of it. That is what we try to cover. So describe the uses of project management in operations management. It covers only a little part of project management. However, you will come to know the basic concepts, basic project management activities and techniques. You will know a little bit about it. Explain the activities involved in project management and identify the main project management techniques to be used in operations management purpose. That is the concern. Right? So project management in operations. I think those who are connected to the discussion through Teams can hear us, and they are there, right? Oops, only one was there.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. Right now, this is not a new term. Even when we started talking about project management. Projects and project processes are not new to us because when we talk about different processes and process selection, we talk about project processes also. And realize that in some industries, in their operations, the main type of processing they require is project processing. So this is not a new term for you. So there we identified projects and special type of processing. Can you remember what type of processes we considered as projects? Other process types are like job shops, batch processing, assembly line processing, or continuous processing. You remember? Among them, project was one we discussed the other day. The project processes. In which aspects that is unique? How many products, how many outputs we expect from a project process? How many, usually we use these two criteria, two process capabilities, one as project volume and the project variety, process variety, right? So when it comes to project processes, how many outputs we expect? Volume. Only one. That must be very clear, right? So through project processing, we often expect only one unit of output. It is a little more complicated, maybe bulky, maybe heavy, maybe complex in nature, right? Or simple product, but still that is customized, highly customized output. Right. So project processes aiming at producing only one output. So, so that project management is used to manage such processes that are aiming at producing one complicated output, highly customized output. Does that mean organizations using project processes produce only one output throughout their lifetime? Not necessarily, not at all. It is just that each order is new. For each new output, they'll have to go by the project processing. So like for different orders, they will have to plan and implement and complete different projects so that they can create different outputs. That is this. As you can see here, this is how we define a project. A project is a temporary. That means it's not like other processes, like repeated process. Biscuit manufacturers producing biscuits may require repeated processes to produce same type of biscuits and supply to the market because they are more or less high demanded items that are needed in high volume. But projects, we consider them as temporary because after that project over, that process is over. Project process is over. So project is a temporary one-time endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, one highly customized product, unique product or a service, which bring about beneficial change to that means useful output. So it involves a set of tasks or activities which, when completed, leads to the creation of some asset, product for sale or service. So through project processes, we can produce some useful asset or a product for sale or a service. Often compared to many other processes, one unique characteristic with projects is projects have end dates, whereas most of the other processes have repeated data. They are repeated, but projects should come to an end. So that projects are not ongoing processes or repeated processes. And we don't consider like activities like administration where a clear output cannot be seen. We don't consider them as projects. We should be able to clearly identify what is the output we are getting. That is, these type of processing we consider project. So thinking of those characteristics and description. Can you name the projects, names of these projects, or some industries that you think they are using projects in producing their project? Construction, one main industry where they use project processing to create outputs. Construction industry. Yeah. Could be housing constructions to various large scale buildings to bridges to highways to various other. Marga to access. And then now look and many other construction companies require project processing in their operation. Each project is unique. That it requires project management in such organizations as operations management. Where there is
External audits.
External audits. Yeah. Auditing firms and all, when they get new, what we call it, the audit assignments or
Engagement.
Each engagement is unique project. Each engagement is unique project, so that I think kind of this knowledge is highly useful. Each engagement is a project. Depending on the requirements of the client, the scale of the financial transactions there, number of transactions and all, scale of the industry, and depending on the unique industry standards applicable and all, each project should have been designed, then managed and completed. Project management is the main process operations management technique there. So I have given you a few examples here, but the examples you cited would be more. I think of many other instances. Think of a service area, right? So building another highway, constructing a new container line and harbor. who for a software development company, development of a new operating system. This should be another example. Constructing a natural gas pipeline in Thailand, likewise. And then expanding the Dubai airport in UAE, likewise, each project. Can you name me a service project example? Telecommunication. Telecommunication is one such industry where probably one expansion of it. So to expand their capacity and maybe new power and various new technological innovations, technological implementation, like various set of equipment and all, right? They'll have to planning, bring down them, establish them, and commission and operate them. Each new such barriers. That are within instruments.
A degree program.
A degree program. Do you think a degree program as a project? Partly, I agree with your decision. Right. Each new project, each new degree program can be considered as a project because you will take and then the conduct the lecture series and then the of course examination and all until the end day, till the end day, that's a project type. Yes. So in educational institutes, more than any other, more than other processing types, project processing is very much applicable. True. In other industries also, where we see repeated operations, like say at hospitals, but we see repeated operations to provide the healthcare services to patients. So that is the main type of operations. But time to time, there can be projects at hospitals, like what? Expansion of one of their medical treatment units, new construction of new buildings and establishing new equipments and all. Right? So same manner, in other industries also, what we can understand, their main type of operations are repeated, but there can be time to time projects. Project management is highly useful. That knowledge is. So here we'll try to understand what project management is, and then what project management is, and what are the main activities coming under project management, and what are the basic techniques and tools used. Right. Slide number 5 gives you more details about the project characteristics. You should be able to go through it and understand project characteristics. Producing and gaining one single unit as the output. Agree? Yes. For that, there can be many related activities that should be completed from the starting point to the end. And those activities should be completed within a fixed time scale. That's a deadline. And it involves certain level of risk, uncertainty, and complexity. Then other repeated risk level high, complexity high, uncertainty high. So that when it comes to managing operations in projects, so planning and other inventory control and other things are relatively difficult in project management. They use general purpose equipments flexibly when and where they are required. Unlike the repeated processes, fixed layouts are applicable to this. Right? When and where things are required, they are taken to the sites and then used for the operations. Flexible resources and general purpose equipment before them, not dedicated. Then, when it comes to labor requirements, that's a unique challenge when we think about projects, talk about project management. When we think about projects and nature of activities there, since they are complicated in nature, different types of work skills are required. Usually, complicated projects are having different phases, levels. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, likewise, and the labor requirements of each phase would be unique. Say, for example, like building a construction. For example, so if we divide them into main phases like making the ground, that is piling and then clearing the area and then basically laying the foundation, let's say, these are two steps. So each steps, the requirements are different. Labor requirements, material requirements. We talk about labor, that is, then after the foundation, the construction, basic structure of it. So depending on the nature of the building, scale of it, various different human skills are required. Then wiring part, electrical, that part of it, and then of course plumbing and all. Various different processing requirements are there. And then the finishing, totally different. And arranging the other utilities and all. So each phase requires different things. Compared to other operations, that is unique. High labor skills are required in managing projects. And not only time, projects are managed with a budget as a financial budget, so that they have to manage all these activities within a budget that is allocated at the beginning and then managed. So in that sense, these are the main project characteristics. I hope that initial discussion is enough. So let's see what project management is and then how different project management tools can be used. We go to the first point here that simply define what project management is. It says project management is concerned with three main responsibilities. One is project planning. The second one, project organizing. And the third one, managing the project activities and resources to successfully complete them. So simply we can say project management is all about planning, organizing and managing project related resources to successfully complete the project. Often you as financial managers or accountants, accounting professionals, will have to engage with managing project. And each engagement and complete them, and maybe various other accounting related projects can be there. Sometimes, let's say, you have a kind of manual, let's say, purchasing. Manual system is purchasing. Purchasing system is manual as of now. You have all the documents and everything that should be arranged and managed manually. The management has decided to introduce the solution for that system, not ERP, but a kind of purchasing management system only. So you are supposed to head the team and help the organization successfully manage the project. It requires project management. When it comes to ERP implementation and other things, they are complete project management. So you can write down something that you think is short related to project management. We just define it. and identify the characteristics and then some examples. Do the second example, second definition. Since it is more comprehensive than the first one, according to that, project management is all about the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements and organizing and managing project related resources so the project is completed within the project constraints. So there are three main project constraints highlighted in project management. They are, in fact, home is not not necessarily a constraint. That is the type of activity, type of the scope of the project, and these are the three main constraints: quality, time, and cost. So, completing the project scope within the time allocated, within the budget set, and meeting the quality requirement. So, these three considered as triple constraints, project management constraints. Quality management. Three project management constraints. Scope. I made a mistake there, right? So, anyway, coming to slide number 7, it clearly shows us these. Scope is one main constraint, cost and time, and meeting them up to a satisfactory level, up to a expected quality level, that is within the quality. So it says manage these triple constraints, otherwise they will manage project management. What is the scope? We'll discuss. What is the time? We'll discuss, and the cost. But for the time being, what do you know about it? What is the scope of a project? Scope of a project? What exactly we are expecting? What exactly we are expected to get done? That is the scope of it. So that may be varying from project to project, and then the nature of the project. Several examples like building construction. So depending on the plan and the building dimensions and all, completing it. Software development project. Each new project, depending on the client's requirements, they will have to identify their requirements and analyze them in detail, and then come up with a solution that fulfills their requirements. That is the scope of it. Each engagement with an audit firms and all, depending on the client's requirements, decide how the project activity or the accounting audit activity should cover the requirements of the client. You consider what factors you decide the scope, their requirements only, or what? The risk. A risk of that industry or the business specific risk. Okay, they can be high risk organizations when it comes to financial transactions, right? So you assess the risk of the financial transactions of that organization as one part when deciding the scope of each engagement. Okay, What else? Client's unique requirements, if any. Then, of course, industry. So some industries may require more attention at the end, and then their standards and all would be unique, right? Financial services to construction or manufacturing, they are different. So industry specific requirements could be considered. And then what are the other areas when it comes to define the scope of each engagement? Audit project. Already planned strategies.
So they will test the controls and the operation. Other controls are effective operating, they will rely and they will implement the scope the substantive requirements.
So initially they will investigate or they will explore the control system of the organization and then decide the scope of the engagement. So do they usually, since I don't know about it, so purpose of conducting such system audits or kind of control audits is to minimize the scope of the project or minimize the cost of it.
Standard procedure. Right. The testing of manual, like let's say, the payment process. So, substantive, if we go to be substantive, they will select the transaction of the period and they will select the supervisors and all, they will check manually. Otherwise, if we use the controls, let's say the controls operating effectively, it will minimize the controls that we are doing.
Yes. So that can simplify the project features. That is how we have a unique system to decide the scope of each engagement. That's great. With experience also you by observing, with experience also by taking. And each audit firm do have some procedures to evaluate the client requirements and then kind of deciding what type of audit procedures would be relevant for this firm. Do you have such criteria?
Established, already established. They will divide according to them.
Fine, is fine. That sounds good. I have a lot to learn from you like this. So, so that's about scope. So the scope related to engagement. So likewise, when it comes to operations, like pure operations, like construction firms or software development firms, because their main operation is project management. So the scope of project will be mainly determined based on the customer's requirement. Each client, their requirements, the nature of the. Give an example now. Building flyover, Congo flyover. That is one unique project handled by one construction company. So the scope of it is based on the process and requirements of the project. That is unique from let's say Colombo city separate. But each project is unique. That is unique from airline. I mean, our Srilankan airport. One, let's say, one runway that they construct. A new one that requires a project process. That is unique. So, triple constant, cost and time. Time, of course, for a project, that's a tight deadline to meet project completion. And then the financial budget set for that, that has to be decided carefully. But the project activities are mainly controlled through these three constraints. Scope of it, the time and the cost. We should not forget the quality in the middle. So when managing, we should ensure that the quality requirements are also fulfilled. Quality. You remember when you talk about quality, the modern definition of quality is applicable here also. Quality means meeting the customer requirements efficiently. So there are various different quality procedures. Depending on the projects, that may be varied. In your own examples, like each engagements, you know how important to ensure the quality. Think about that. That is the same thing we discussed here. Quality. Anything else you want to ask from me, or we need to discuss here up to this point? Because here onward we will talk about the 3 project management activities. Any term that is not clear or anything we'll discuss. Those who came late, we are talking about project management. You can easily understand it. We just define it, identify the characteristics and examples. Yeah. Can we move to the main content then? Yeah. Hello? Have a doubt? So these are the 3 main activities involved in project management as we identified. One is planning, and the other one is organizing or scheduling what we call, and controlling and managing. Project planning. Project planning. As you can understand, since each project is unique, sufficient amount of time and effort should be put on project planning in order to successfully implement it, control it, and organize, control it, and complete. Sufficient amount of time and effort should be allocated on project plan. So what are the main activities coming under project planning? We call it goal setting, defining the project, and also designing the project theme. Main things coming under planning, and accordingly move into the second stage of it. We call it organizing the project, where the required resources and arrangements are made. And these 2 steps together will contribute to at least 40 to 50% of the success of the project. Unlike many other operations, successful completion of the project mainly depends on planning and organizing. Many other repeated processes, once it is established, it's a matter of just utilizing the same process and produce products continuously. Here, each project is unique, so that project managers should put a lot of efforts on project planning and project organizing. Accordingly, controlling and managing. Right. And organizing relate people, that is human resources, money, financial resources, and other resources, other supplies, materials, and various different specific activities and activities to each other. So that we know how we are going to complete the project, and accordingly controlling and managing will be done. So under planning, setting objectives of the project, identifying the resources required, and making the initial work, break down the schedule, and then planning how to organize the projects and all coming under planning. So scheduling identifying specific project activities according to the work breakdown structure here, and then deciding starting deadlines, finishing deadlines and all, and then identifying how we are going to organize the activities in the project. We call it scheduling, so that we know starting points, starting dates, activities, and ending dates and any other note. Accordingly, they will go to implementation, where they will start the project and implement them as planned. Meantime, they involve in controlling to check whether the project activities are in control, moving as planned. In case if they see some deviations, they have to immediately identify how we can improve. Monitor, compare, and revise the actions to meet the deadlines. The triple constraints to meet the deadlines. Triple constraints. So, first, controlling is required to meet those deadlines. Not necessarily trying the other period, other goals. So, right. When it comes to project management activities, planning, scheduling, and controlling, and putting it in a timeline, we can understand planning, I mean, before the project, and then project scheduling and activities involving the main project activities, and then during the project, what we require is controlling the project. And for that, various different tools, techniques, methods are used. Initially, those were manual techniques, basic techniques, but now most of project management activities are depend on systems, software solutions, so that any complicated projects can be managed smoothly with minimum effort. Especially planning, scheduling, and can be handled faster, smoothly with these software solutions. Various different documents, reports required can be prepared within few clicks since these software are available. Otherwise, it takes longer time to plan. But the basics are same. How they implement now with the system that is right. Project planning. These are the various different techniques that are used. Cost estimates, time estimates, preparation of budgets with respect to the project activities, engineering diagrams, and various other engineering drawings to show the project completion, how it should look like likewise. Then cash flow charts to identify financial resource requirements. Material availability details to identify the materials requirements and various other supplies required. That is coming under project planning related activity. So decide the scope and plan the activities, and then identify the resource requirements. How we are going to we'll discuss a little more. Since each project is unique, we can't simply say this is what we need to do. Depending on the project, depending on the nature of the task, activities would be varied. So these are the common planning tools and techniques used. Coming to scheduling, that is where the project related activities are arranged from the beginning to the end and identify how these activities should be complete. So that how the resources, machines, workforce, and other things are required. So that involves here scheduling. So for that, various different tools and techniques are used, especially in project scheduling. One of these methods, one is called CPM, stands for critical path method. Critical path method. And then PERT technique, project evaluation and review technique. Project evaluation and review techniques are used. We will simply discuss one example or two here in the class for us to understand how project scheduling can be done and the importance of it. That is practically very useful. A common tool, although that is very simple, it's a very common tool used for project scheduling to effectively plan and communicate what is to be done and how we are meeting the project activities and all. We call it Gantt charts. Hope you have heard of it. You know it, Gantt charts. Milestone charts also useful to identify the deadlines, milestones, the key deliverables, and then to what extent we are meeting them. Cash flow schedules to manage the cash flow requirements and then managing it during the control phase. So when it comes to controlling, there can be different types of controlling, especially the project related tasks. There are different tasks to be completed and to what extent we are meeting them. At the same time, there can be controls for other constraints also, not only project related, scope related. What are the two other? One is time and the other one is resources, financial resources, that is the budget. So controls are required for those two as well. Deadline as well as financial resources. So budget controls are there, delayed activity reports and other controls are there for identify project related delays and slack activity reports to identify how we can expedite projects, and we call it we call it expediting projects, especially when they are lagging behind. Identify what and what activities can be expedited and like what. Understand it? So these are the three main project management in general. Project planning, project scheduling, project control. For these three steps, different management tools. We are going to discuss about them, especially the second one, scheduling tools and all, but others also very much useful. You should know about it. Any quick questions before moving to the main content? You need to write down something?
කියලා දෙන්න පටන් ගන්න අද එක්ක ගන්න තියෙන එක දන්නවනේ ඉන්නේ. අද ඉන්නේ ගාන මට එක හම්බෙන්නේ
Right. We will discuss a little bit of them, but prior to that, you can ask any question. Have you received any formal training at audit firms? Maybe when you get the initial training on this for managing audit project? Have not. Yeah, okay. I think then you are having a kind of on-the-job training. While you are managing, while you are engaging with the project, you are learning it. Right? You are learning it, and you have your own approaches. Don't you think so? I mean, don't you think like as audit firms, if they provide you with a proper project management experience, right, it would help you seeing the big picture, and then how each engagement can be planned properly and completed properly. Accounting professionals must have kind of proper formal project management experience. Project management. When you start your audit firms one day, why not? Not only the auditing related experience you have, but operations management knowledge. That means how audit related the firm has a lot of operations to manage. These firms have a lot of operations to manage. So you need to think as operations managers as well one day. Because in audit, at audit firms, you are managing audit operations. How to plan it, how to design the operation system in order to smoothly process audit projects and so on, then provide customers better service while managing operations that low. Can you understand it? So audit operations management is very important. For accountants, for finance managers, and auditors. See it from an operations point of view. Otherwise, you just think you as an accountant, you as a chartered accountant, you as a auditor. But from when you think from operations management point of view, you see, okay, there are inputs. This is how we process it. This is our output. This is how our operations should have been arranged. And for that, there are various different management techniques. I'm just saying general, but all the other things. Say quality management and relevant. Not necessarily as in manufacturing firms, who hospitals, but in a different way that is applicable for audit firms. Right. No questions from the back? Hello? You have a lot of other commitments? No? This thing? Huh? Right. Coming to project planning. It says in general, these are the common activities involved in project planning. Can't see it. Project planning. The activities like establishing project objectives, so that defining the project and project scope, creating work breakdown structure of the project depending on the scope, and identifying resource requirements, especially the financial requirements, and preparing budgets and all, right? And identify the other resources also, supplies and also. And then deciding the type of organization we require for this project, because each project may require different project organization. So these are the common activities we identify under project plan. Project plan. When it comes to project, I mean, since we are trying to have a quick discussion on this topic, we are not going into details, but get a simple idea. When deciding project objectives and defining projects and all, how things happen, what do you know and what you want to do. So how project scopes, what is required and all to be finalized. To be able to understand, each project is unique in a way. The type of output we expect is unique. So that project planners, now who are managing projects? We consider that as a team. We call it the project team. Headed by one manager, we call him over project manager. So usually projects are managed through a team. That is the type of organization required. Project teams are required. Headed by one manager, one or two. Project manager, assistant project manager, or likewise. Then for the organization, there can be different projects. So that each project is headed by project manager, supported by one or two management level staff and the project staff. Then the project manager. What is the other party? Recipient of the project output, that is the client. So clients may come with their requirements and the project manager with their project management knowledge and experience, and the organization also. Together we finalize the scope of the project. And accordingly, the project objectives and the work breakdown start. So that is it. Now that is what I initially tried to get some information from you. If we consider one engagement as a project, when defining the scope, when planning the engagement, how you are supposed to do it usually. There we identified, since each audit project, each engagement is unique, you will have to first study the requirements of the client. Hello, is it so? You will have to first study the requirements of the client and the scale of the business, which industry the business coming from, and of course, using the project manager's skills, knowledge, and experience, they will finalize, okay, how they are going to plan this engagement. That is what we call project planning in that sense. When it comes to audit project. In the same manner, if you think of other operations like construction firms or hospitals planning an expansion, or a company planning to successfully apply for ISO certification and obtain ISO certification, each of them are projects. Another company planning to successfully implement ERP, a project. They have to plan it properly. We call it project plan. What else you know? What else you want to know about project plan? Hello. closed books, thinking that you can memorize things. Well, there are two ways of planning projects. Two types of projects. For the consider it as a project control, two types of projects are described. These are the most traditional, conventional project scheduling types, scheduling macro, project planning approach. This one, we call them waterfall project. This is the most common type of projects managed in traditional, conventional setups. That is called waterfall. Meaning as a waterfall. So there's a particular way it happens. It comes from the beginning. It comes from the top, like a waterfall. Where are the project objectives, activities, and everything well defined from the beginning itself. Then what happens is just falling down. Implement them as planned. Such projects we call waterfall. Like many of your existing, let's say, if we relate to project firms, your engagements can be managed as follow this approach. Waterfall, as waterfall. At the beginning, you set everything. You define the scope, you identify what to do and everything, and then you manage. It involves extensive planning. You know your constraint very clearly and will define the specification. That is one type. Building construction may require the same type of plan. Understand it? Building construction may require same plan. Then, of course, as one of you have the remote control. Basically. You don't have it's a control game. The remote. I think this should be somewhere around 20 or so. Let's make it 24 or 25. So let's make this also 25. Ready? Oh, that way. So what call projects? What is the other one? What is the other one? The latest approach for project management. Hello. Latest approach for project management is known as agile projects and agile project management. Of this term is familiar to you, you know a little bit of it, right? We call them agile projects where the projects are ill-defined. At the beginning, they don't know much about it. They know what is expected, but they don't have a clear plan as to how we should do it, what activities would come on our way, how we are going to complete it. So at the beginning, they don't know much about it. That is the most common type of projects we see now in competitive industries. Some of the industries like information hiding. So we call them ill-defined projects, whereas the first one well-defined. So there we call the approach should be agile approach. You know of it, right? What is agile? So what are the main characteristics of agile type projects that you know? Have you heard of it? Yeah. Agile. Some may have heard of it. Yeah. Agile. Yeah. Yeah. You will be correct. Yeah. Please go ahead. Is the first part actually reduction of scope. Reduction of scope. Okay. Reduction. At the beginning, yes. Although they plan, they don't. I mean, they don't know what to plan at the beginning. Not yes, you are correct. Say that. It's not that they don't plan. They plan, but they don't know what to plan at the beginning. So they plan to plan together from the beginning. That is how it begins. Right. That is in a way they are ready to adjust to the situation and start from zero and move forward. That is the approach of agile, which is required for certain projects, not like your projects. Often required in creative, like software development, advertising, certain research projects, like new technology development. At the beginning, they have only a somewhat clear idea what we need to do. That they have kind of rough idea in their mind, but they don't know how to do it, who and who, how we are going to do it, and no. Just a rough idea about their future plan. That they start thinking and planning from the beginning. Thank you. That is what we call ill-defined projects at the beginning. And there are many unknowns. Situations, what will happen and all. They don't know. They can't clearly predict. So that the type of technology and the specification, what they are going to do and all, they are gradually evolved as they move forward with the project. At the beginning, very basic idea. And in this type of projects are developed iteratively and incrementally. That's what they call iteratively. Back and forth, back and forth. And they do something and then come back and evaluate what they did and then go for and plan it and go like that. And then independently at the beginning, basic idea only. As they move forward, they gradually expand the project activities and that has gained a lot of popularity in project management now. Agile project management, if you Google, you will come across a lot of new terms, techniques. Although that is not so relevant for your industry as of now, good to have some knowledge about agile project management concepts and techniques. When it comes to certain sport events, sports have become all over the world. Now, when it comes to winning a game of football, winning a game of rugby, and also winning a game of cricket, from operations management point of view, right? It's a project. Depending on the opponent team, which country you are playing, which pitch, and various other factors, how you should play, how you can win, and everything. So, successfully win a game, you need to plan it from the beginning. The good old days, the idea was you need to have a proper plan before going to the match, before going to the ground, and then you just implement it. Just like waterfall projects. The team is fixed and you know your strategy, and for each 5 over, 10 over, you know what your plans are. And thereby you try to win the game. Defeating the other team. In games like football and rugby, you know, they are highly competitive. No team would be able to plan them beforehand completely. Instead, they have a kind of rough plan. They go to the floor, they go to the ground and start changing the game depending on the strategies of the other team. It is rugby. So there are a lot of concepts taken from rugby to this type of project management, agile project. Anyone played rugby here? Football? Involved in sports will give you a lot of understanding. Because each time they should be ready to change. Should be ready to change. Otherwise, what will happen? The team will understand our strategy, then just clear. So, waterfall projects and agile projects. Agile is all about being ready to change at any stage of the project. That requires unique project planning, unique project organizing and implementation. We are not going to discuss much about it, by the way. I'm going to project planning. We talked about these few things. We'll discuss more little later. Coming to project organization. Project organization as part of project forming organization. It's all about how the project activities, project people and project activities are organized. Projects often require temporary structure. It uses specialists, experts from the entire company for different activities, headed by a project manager. They involve in coordinating activities of the project and monitor schedules and costs, whether we are on the right direction. So these temporary structures are often used. Temporary. Like this. For each project, there will be a project manager and other members selected from other departments based on their expertise. Based on that. For another project, there will be another manager appointed as project manager. 2 for another project, and a team will be appointed to manage the project. So that is what we call project organization. Whereas in some other industries, not temporary projects, the nature of their operations are every time they have projects, so that they have permanent project structures. We call them matrix organizations, where we see different project teams, project team 1, 2, 3, 4, representing different departments, and each project is assigned to each project team. Like audit firms, we have a kind of matrix organization. So, because each engagement, every time they will have to manage engagements as projects. So their permanent project structures are required, like matrix organization. Agreed? Members may be changed time to time. Members of the team, but they maybe usually you call them audit managers or audit executives heading one engagement. Project manager. One project manager. There is a project manager. Right. Then under the project manager, what is the next? Supervisor. Supervisors. And then a team of 3 to 5 or likewise. And we call them assistants, associates, manager, supervisor, field assistant. So, right. So that they are managing one engagement. That's about project organizing. This says when project organization works best. When the work can be defined with a specific goal and deadline. When the job is unique or somewhat unfamiliar to the existing organization. When the work contains complex interrelated tasks requiring specialized skills. When the project is temporary but critical to the organization. When the project cuts across organizational lines, where we can assign that to only one department. So in such a situation, project organization or project approach would be better. That's better. You can understand it. The role of a project manager is to coordinate all the activities from the beginning to the end. We usually believe that their contribution is highly visible. So to become project manager, becoming a project manager in a way would be challenging and it requires a lot of skills, competence. Becomes project manager. They are responsible. Project managers are responsible for making sure that all the necessary tasks are finished in order and on time. And the project comes to an end within the budget. And the project meets quality goals as agreed. And the project manager is responsible for keeping people, the workforce and all, engaged, motivated, and informed and encouraged to give their commitment. Becoming a project manager requires a lot of skills. Good project managers should be good coaches, good communicators, and able to organize activities from a variety of disciplines. With that, we can go to the main technical part of it to identify how the work organization is done. Right? Now, when it comes to a project, that can be subdivided into major tasks. And the major tasks can be subdivided into subtasks. And under subtasks, we can identify specific activities or work packages to be completed. So these are the different levels of a project that we require. Project, major task, subtask, and specific activity. This is an example for you to identify those levels. Now, this refers to a software development. This is Windows 10 OS, right? If we consider that as 1.0. Level 2, the main tasks that they have identified into 3 categories. 1.1, software design. 1.2, post management plan. 1.3, system testing. So these are the 3 main tasks, major tasks to be completed in order to get the project done. That is level 2. And each major task can be subdivided into subtasks. So for an example, 1.1 here, This is 1.1.1 developing GUIs. And cost management plan, the lower level of it is design cost tracking reports. Likewise, there can be few. System testing, module testing. That is 1.3.1. So likewise 1.3.2. Right? So there can be. These are the different levels. GUIs, and then of course ensure compatibility with the earlier version. And let's, if you consider this as level 3 activity, specific work packages or activities should be level 4, like compatible with Windows 8, 7, with Windows Vista in this case. So likewise, this is how project tasks and activities should be arranged from highest to the lowest so that we can plan them. Now you should be able to see, is this a kind of waterfall approach or agile approach? Basically, waterfall approach. Waterfall approach, where they have initially identified what are the specific activities and how. Agile approach is little that one. Should we take a quick break and come to talk about project scheduling? That, yeah. We will have afternoon session as well. So we need to keep some energy for the afternoon session. Come back quickly. It's late, right?
Yeah. These days we are working late night because of the
5 nights and all. We started talking about project management. Make it clear. Complete now. Good that you came to now.
Thank you.
പൊടി അവിടെ
And we start reading for the so far, right? Well, if they are, they can take so go now. Keep a message that we can complete this part and go to the other one and have a break for lunch. So far, we attempted to get the basic details about projects and project management. But here we need to we are going to discuss little. We are going to discuss things in little detail because that is one thing that might be useful. If I go to the full class, this is the full class. So good morning. But at least join the second half. Great. Right. We attempted to get we attempted to get the basic concept here related to project management, and then the stop here. Work breakdown, and that we identified that can be divided into few levels. Project consists of major tasks. Major tasks can be divided into subtasks and then activities, so that it helps project managers to schedule the project in a more appropriate and meaningful. We're going to quickly discuss a little more details about project scheduling, because that is one main part that we need to cover here, and then project controlling you can easily understand. Right, coming to project scheduling. scheduling. It refers to arranging the different project tasks in a particular order and planning how to do it. So that involves these activities: identifying precedent relationships, sequencing the activities, and accordingly determining activity times and costs, and estimating other material and work requirements, and they accordingly decide other critical activities and other. So these are the main project scheduling activities, which should be understood with a little more details when you talk about this project scheduling. So for that, the purpose of project scheduling is described here. For what purpose project scheduling is done? It helps us showing the relationship of each activity to others and to the whole project. Project scheduling identifies the precedence relationships among activities in the project. It encourages the setting of realistic time estimates and cost estimates for each activity, and thereby helps make better use of people, money, and materials resources by identifying the critical bottlenecks in the project. Spend 1 minute with it, check whether you can understand. Project schedule. The purposes of project scheduling. With an example, we will quickly identify the meaning of it and how we can do it with us. Yeah. Precedence, we'll explain that. Yeah. Precedence, you must have heard of it before, because we talked about it. It shows the line balancing. Precedence. So what do you understand about the project scheduling? What is this? Identify the link, the relationship between activities. The exact point you asked about precedence, that shows which task should be completed prior to that. So that link you can identify by scheduling. So it's all about linking the activities of the project in a sequential manner, so that we can identify how these project tasks can be completed. Project tasks can be completed. Anyone who couldn't sign here? Right. Let's see. This is an important task, right? With respect to each project, especially such waterfall projects, project scheduling is a key task. Even when it comes to agile projects, some sort of initial idea should be there as to how we are going to move forward, and each and every step would be different. When it comes to project scheduling, the main technique we use there is networking, network planning, and when it comes to network planning, these two are the main common tools used for that: CPM, critical path method, and PERT, project or program or project evaluation and review techniques. And then this basic tool can also be used for the same purpose. We call it Gantt chart. So with an example, a Gantt chart would be like this. These are the project activities or tasks over a time horizon, how they are going to be completed, illustrated here in a simple manner. We call it the Gantt chart. With an exact example, this is for a Delta jet. So this is now for service kind of example. Now there can be such examples also, like in creating certain services, project processing is required. Now this is for airline services. When an aircraft is landed, before the next step or in between, there can be number of processing, number of operations to be completed. You know, unloading and then loading, and in between various different activities. I mean, each time how these activities are completed can be identified as a project and then recommend. Identify what to do and how to do. That could be another example. So for passengers, deplaning and baggage claim. And then the baggage container offload, fueling, pumping, and engine injector water. And then cargo and mail container offload, Galle service, main cabin door and aft cabin door. So likewise, specifically they identify for each activities, each task, and then how long it would be taken. And by looking at it, within 40 minutes, we should have been able to complete all these activities and the plane should be ready to next departure. Different types of project processing, so compared to what we consider mainly as projects. Each time they need to complete these steps and make the flight ready for the next departure. So that's also an example for a kind of Gantt chart showing what to do in which order to do it. Let's go for a. Let's move to slide number 13 here to further understand more details about project planning and scheduling here. Right. Now, when it comes to project scheduling, complicated project, we should be able to identify the project-related activities first, and that happens during the project planning. So, what tasks must be carried out, and then what tasks can be performed parallelly, and then identify the total resources available for the project, and assign proportion of resources to each task and all completed during the project planning, and accordingly identify how we are going to complete the project. Right? Now, under project planning, as we just identified, these two techniques, TPM or PERT. In applying them, these 6 steps are followed. We will learn how to do it quickly. So these are the 6 steps followed. Define the project and prepare the work breakdown structure. Develop relationships among activities. Decide which activities must precede and which must follow others. And accordingly draw the network connecting all the activities and assign time estimates and or cost estimates also to each activity. And then using the critical path method, compute the longest time path through the network. And thereafter use the same network to help plan, schedule, monitor, and control the project. These are the 6 that we will quickly learn through an example. Accordingly, these 2 techniques will help project managers to answer these questions shown in this slide and the next slide. So the questions that can be answered through CPM and PRT like this. When will the entire project be complete? that we will be able to identify. What are the critical activities or tasks in the project? We'll be able to identify. Which are the non-critical activities accordingly? What is the probability the project will be completed by a specific date? Further to that, some other questions like, is the project on schedule, behind the schedule, or ahead of the schedule? We can compare. Is the money spent on, is the money spent or already spent equal to the budget, or less than the budget, or greater than the budget? We'll be able to compare. Are there enough resources available to finish the project on time? We'll be able to identify. If the project must be finished in a shorter time than planned, what is the way to accomplish this at least cost? The type of questions can be answered with this CPM method or CERT. So that is why this is useful. So let's quickly identify how this technique can be used. CPM method for project scheduling. For a simple example like this, but at the same time, I will ask you to attend on your own exercise as well. So you need to know a little more details about these specific terms that we use here. That's a critical path in a project. What is that? As you can see here, the critical path in a project is the longest path through the project network. The critical path is the shorter time in which the project can be completed. Any delay in the critical path activities may result in delays in the project completion time. Critical path activities have no slack time. These are four concepts we use in critical path methods: ES, EF, LS, and LF. Right? We'll understand it with an example. So this is the example we are going to work on. The answer is also given. I will just show you how to do it. And meantime, will help you doing your own exercise. So for a project, you should know what are the specific project activities, and then of course their time. Plus predecessor. So immediate predecessor. Such information is given here in this example. This column refers to the labor requirements for each activity. Now, thinking about your own ongoing project or something hypothetical, can you also identify a project that has few tasks? We'll give you 5 to 10 minutes. Individually, you can think of your own project. It could be like what? It could be an engagement that you're familiar with, that has its steps. It could be your wedding, the project you're planning, that has to be completed after completing several tasks. Or else it could be constructing a house that has several steps in it. So likewise, think of a project of your involvement that has your involvement. Try to identify its scope and the task. 25 technique. Think of a project example in your mind and identify specific tasks. At the beginning, don't worry in which order you are going to complete them, right? Just list down the project tasks. What and what should be complete. Could be totally new example than what I told you. Maybe if you have at least 10, 12 steps, 10, 12 activities in the task, in the project. Just identify the names of activities. I need to say one example. The planning a wedding, first of all, you have to have a partner. Finding a partner. That's about. Finding a partner. Right? There is one activity you need to complete. Then, of course, apply for a loan. So think of a better practical example and identify specific project activity. Those who are connected online also can think of a practical example where you are supposed to complete a project and that has specific tasks. So prepare a list of tasks that needs to be completed. No other details, just the list. Keep in mind all the other details we discussed. This project should be aiming at one output, right? That should be a completion. One output. You can understand. So think of a cases that we have to identify list of tasks. So if we have 10 to 12 tasks, not 3, 4, 5, but 10 to 12 steps in. be better. Okay. I hope you are completing it. Now you should have a list of tasks together contributing to one given output. You have to have one output. All these tasks contributed to that. You can still work on it. Meantime, because you have completed, think of the time requirement for each task. Use another pen, like another color, and specify the time requirement for each task. Maybe some projects may have times in days. For some other projects, maybe days, times in weeks or months. That's all right. So use common time frame. It could be days, weeks, or months. It's all right. How can you specify the time required for each task, each activity? Tentative time figure, average time. So remember, now this service example, the service example here, they have used, they are referring to minutes here. The minute. But in your case, it could be days, weeks, or months even. Use the same time bucket for all the tasks. Okay. Right, then I hope you have a project in your hand now that has few tasks, activities, at least 5 to 7 to 10, 12 activities for which you know the activities and then the time required. For each of these tasks, rather than numbering, right, just name them as A, B, C, D. That will be better, right? So from the beginning to the end, A, B, C, D, likewise. Name them as name each task, each activity as A, B, C, D. From the beginning to the end, starting task should be A, the next B, likewise. And then prepare a table like this. The first two columns. First two columns here. No need of task description, just the task or the activity name A, B, C, D, likewise. And then the duration or the task time or the activity time. Your task timing days. Okay. Another important piece of information, even with these two pieces of information, we can go for guard charts and all, right? But for critical path methods and all, we need this piece of information as well, but we call immediate predecessors. In the sense, to start this activity, which and which task should have been completed prior to that should be identified and mentioned here. Now, go back to the previous list and check whether you can identify the predecessor or the prerequisites or predecessors accurately. Right? There can be a starting point. For that, you don't have a predecessor. But after that, for all the tasks, you should be able to identify at least one or two, or sometimes even three predecessors. So try to identify that in which order you need to complete the project task and try to show that on a column like this. Refer just to the activity names, right? No need of description. Right? Say, for example, A, without any predecessor, they can start. But to begin B, they should have completed A, definitely. So likewise, in your project, and you identify the procedures required or predecessors. Don't fill that column. Each project is unique here, so that your predecessors are known to you only. Think carefully. Sometimes for certain tasks, there can be more than one predecessor. Definitely, you should complete D and E. Going there, not only one. Those who need more time, you can take 2, 3, no, 5 minutes. Finalize the task and finalize the task duration. Also, task predecessor. You sure only one predecessor for each and every task? Sure. Right. Okay. Okay. It depends on your project, right? So that there can be complicated project, there can be more or less linear project. Some you select only a simple project. So that you can provide. Later you will convert them into same at the same time bucket, right? So for an example, you need to consider the days. If that is that's great idea. So 7 days, 7 days. It shouldn't be, I mean, minutes. I mean, in that case, that should be coupled with another task that is more meaningful. That minutes, right? I don't know much about what you have selected, but try to make it. Anyway, you have to refer to the same bucket. Right. Likewise, you will have to involve. You will have to engage with arranging or what we call task project planning. Project plan. What we are doing now is a kind of project planning and accordingly project scheduling. Thing that you need to add a little more. That now assume that you got a project from a customer, so you'll have to discuss with them, negotiate with them, and finalize the scope of the project and all. That is the first step. And after that, the project plan. What we do now is project planning. Very simple example. Anyway, Now, as a result of project planning, we will have a complete table like this with respect to the project that has in one side the activities and the activity task or duration, and then the activity predecessor. This is essential for project scheduling. Are we ready? Shall we move to the next step then? Right. So for project scheduling, as we studied, there are different techniques. One simple technique is Gantt chart. So we can show the activities on a timeline and identify, okay, which and which task will be completed over a period of time. But the two main techniques, that is critical path method and project evaluation and review techniques, may require something called project network. Project network. So for project networking, there is this technique we call AON, activity on node, right? Which means for each and every activity we have in the project, we create a node. Here, a node means a kind of structure like this. Okay? So that has 6 cages here. So for each task, we will have one node. ES, duration, EF. LS, float or select, and LF. Right? And then we use arrows to connect, arrows to show the direction of the task. And accordingly prepare the project network. Now, what you see here is a project network that we develop for the information given here, the details given here. So that is shown as node. So each node may have 6 cages. So we start from the beginning without any activity. So start at day 0. Right. So from there onwards, all the activities are arranged according to the precedence requirement or predecessors. Can you understand that? Now, A can be started without any predecessor. That is the starting point. If there are any other parallel starts, we should be able to identify it. That task should have no predecessor. But luckily, we have only one starting point for this project. So coming to activity B, of which the predecessor is A, so that means after A, B can be started. Coming to C, B is the predecessor. After B only, C can be started. But for D, E, and F, and then G, A is the predecessor. So that after A, D, E, F, and G can be started. So that is what is shown here. Understood it? D, then D, E, F, G. All can be started after A. From where we go to know that? From the information. Understood it? And then for H, that is F. H, after F, we can start. And J after C and D. J after C and D. And then K, the last activity of the project, after E, D, H, and J. E, D, H, and J, K can be started. Can you understand it? So to show the precedence or precedence requirements, we should prepare the network. For each node, there should be 6 cages that we will fill in. Understanding? Can you give it a try to prepare a network diagram for your project? Depending on use A, B, C, and D, right? And then show the link, show the direction, and prepare a network diagram like we call it network diagram. We start from 0, and to denote each task, we use node. Node is a kind of arrangement like this that has 6 cages that we use to calculate project times and all. Right? So each node represents each task. Likewise, so the network diagram. Any help that I can do?
Those cases.
We'll let you know. Right? There will be 6 cages for each node. Just draw the network only. Yeah. We will decide later. We haven't decided yet the critical part. We are just trying to draw the network only. Next step is to identify the critical part. Don't worry about the numbers. What you have to do is just draw the network only for your project. If you need my support, please raise your hand. So connected online, you are working on it, you can raise your voice. So the task name is just shown above the node, right? A, B, C, likewise. So, an example now. B of the digital immediate is after A, G can be after. But coming to C, there is B. After B, can be is the any connection to D, G, after D, it says Some are lucky enough to get a color, more attractive networks, whereas some others have got a straight line because one activity next to it, likewise, that is the flow. But whereas some others have identified, depending on the project, that's all right. It's what you get, right? Would be better so that you can identify the project, the critical part. You can put the number, get the calculations done, you can have a network like this. And each box should have 6 cages. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, in case if there are 2 starting points, what will happen? Hello? 2 starting points in the sense? 2 starting points in the sense? There can be like this, there can be one activity without any prior task. At the same time, another activity without any prior task. Say, there was a C, no any predecessors, which means there is another parallel start. So there has to be a connection from the start to that. And thereafterwards, how activities are arranged based on that activity. That's it. Not as necessarily true. There can be 3, 4, 5 starting points. Complicated projects may have 2, 3, 4 starting points. With your simple example now, at home you will come up with a detailed project scheduling understanding. Ready? Could you manage the network diagram? That is perfectly all right, but to calculate project duration and all, you need a complete node. A node should have 6 cages. A node should have 6 cages. Right. Let me show you now. There are a few questions. What to be included in those cages? What is it? Right. So this is all about project scheduling in the sense we try to identify project completion time and other details. And for that, we use these nodes. As you can see here, in a node, the cages are named like this. The first one, that is ES, earliest start time of that activity. Activity duration, anyway, that is taken from the information given to each task. Activity duration is given, and then we calculate EF, earliest finish time. The downside of the cage, LS, latest start, float or slack, if any, LM, latest finish. What we mean by them is the previous slide. So ES, earliest time at which an activity can start, assuming all predecessors have been completed. EF refers to earliest time at which an activity can be finished to each activity. Whereas LS, latest time at which an activity can start, so as to not delay the completion time of the entire process. Latest time that we can start without delaying the project. That we have to calculate an idea. Latest finish, latest time by which the activity has to be finished, so as to not delay the completion time of the entire project. That is what it is. LL and LL and slack for float depending here. So let me help you how to complete this information, these details. Now, there are two calculations. One is forward calculation, forward pass, where we calculate earliest start time. Then in the backward pass, we calculate the latest start time. There are two ways. But I'm going back. And this is the network, right? Clear? Isn't it? Now, starting point, we begin with 0 day. No any time. Starting time. We start with 0. Then, with respect to each activity or task, with respect to each activity or task, we know the duration, isn't so? Now, for task A, duration is 5. So, where to show the duration? This page. So, 5. Then for task B, duration is 15. Task B, duration is 15. So likewise, complete only that duration page. Complete the duration page of each task. That is essential to calculate the revenue. So we have to get it from the original table. We start to talk about project management. We are almost at the end. So yes, you guys are one of your friends. And I hope you have now you have mentioned the project, task durations here. Right. Now we are ready to calculate forward. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. So task A, earliest start. We have to look at the predecessor, no any predecessor, the time of the previous task, no time. So we consider that as 0 here. Earliest start time, 0. Okay. Then we know the duration, that is 5 days. So that earliest finish we get at earliest start and duration and calculate the earliest finish. 0 plus 5, 5. Okay. So that is how the first part of it is completed. Starting earliest start 0 because that is the beginning. Duration 5. Earliest finish 0 plus 5, 5. Coming to B, activity B, of which the duration is 15, right? 15. So we take the earliest start as the earliest finish of the previous task. So the EF of the predecessor, that is A, is 5 days. We take 5 as the earliest start. And duration is 15. So earliest finish is 5 plus 15, 20. Coming to D, which the duration is 20. What is the ES? EF of the previous. That is 5. Duration 20, EF 25. So that is how we calculate. Now, there can be activities like this. Hello? There can be activities like this, like J. For that, there are two predecessors, C and D. Simple. There are rows coming from C and D. Then what? Is that clear? For activities like J that has more than one predecessors. So what to consider as the ES? Well, in that case, we look at the EF of the previous predecessors. C and D get the longest. And get the longest. In this case, 30 and 25 are the two deadlines, two finishing times. So we get the longest. That means 30. Clear? When there are more than one predecessor. And consider the duration, that is 5 days. So the finish time 35 5, 30 plus 5, 35. That is how it is calculated. Likewise, we calculate till the end. Task K and complete the upper part of the node. And accordingly, we identify 45 as the earliest finishing time of last task. So that is the finishing. So we will be able to finish it by 45 days itself. So accordingly, do the same for your task, your project, and try to complete the upper side of the node. And now you know when can you complete. We still don't know the critical path yet. What we know is project completion time only. I hope you managed to identify the project completion time. So it is not the total of all the tasks, right? Total time of all the tasks. We will be able to complete faster than that. Because of the network arrangement. Some tasks can be parallelly complete. So that we will be able to complete them short than total project and total task times. Right. We are now going to calculate the backward. Right? Backward calculation. Where we identify the later times then. So coming here, it starts from here. Hello, it begins from the end. So finish time, that is what we take as the latest finish of the last task. We say project completion time as the latest finish of the last task. So 45 here taken as 45. If there are more than one activities here, we get the same 45, 45, 45. Then what we do? Then we divide, we reduce the duration from that and calculate the latest start. Latest finish 45, that is for activity A, and then duration 10. So the latest start 45 minus 10, 35. And that 35 is taken as the latest finish of the next activity, that is H and E and J and G, right? That is how. Then of course, let's say here 35 minus duration, that is 20. Latest start 25. That is 10. Then we see the difference between these two, 35 minus 35 0. That is the slack time or float time we call it. Right? So we show it as 0 because both are equal. Both are same. 35 here, 35 here. Float 0. So for example here, 35 minus 10, 25. 25 minus 25, 0. But for an activity like this, 35 minus 5, 30. Okay. And float time should be the gap between these two. 30 minus 25, 25. There are some tasks with 0 float time. There are some tasks for activities not 0, more than that. So like we come to the end of it, right? To complete it till the first task and identify what are the float times of each task. Now with that, with that we can identify the critical path of the project. What is the critical path? Critical path that we identified earlier. Yeah, here. Critical path is the longest path through the network. Longest path. And the critical path is the shortest time in which the project can be completed. What is the importance of this path? Any delay in critical path activities delay in the project. Critical path activities have no slack time. We take it from here. No slack time, which means if the slack time or float time is 0, that means that's a critical activity. So we try to identify what are the tasks that are having 0 float time and identify the path connecting those tasks. In this case, in fact, there are 2 paths, 2 critical paths connecting activities having 0 float time. This is one path. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. That is one path. And here also 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. That is the second path. So looking at the flow time, we identify what is the critical path, what are the critical paths of the project. That is simple, right? so that we know now what are the critical activities. So usually you can show what is the critical path using this type of sign, or maybe using another color you can show which is the path that determines the project completion time. So in project management, what is the impact of these critical activities? Part, as you know, simple as this, we cannot delay critical path activity. If we delay it, the project time will be delayed. Project time will be delayed. But there can be tasks like this. Say for example, task G that has 20 days float time. We can delay up to 20 days without getting any impact on the deadline, project deadline. Task E, now it has 25 float days. No issue if we delay it by 25 days, maximum 25. That won't affect on the project completion time. So what is the purpose of this thing? Identifying which task should be strictly monitored and others, especially resource limitations are there, right? Especially work, labor and all. So when allocating and assigning scheduling workers and all, we should prioritize on these critical tasks and manage the workforce with the floating tasks so that we can minimize the cost. That we should not compromise critical tasks. Now, say for an example, together with this, the labor requirements are given here. Labor requirements are given here for each task so that we can manage the labor requirements by looking at the critical or non-critical nature of activity. See, now these Gantt charts shows the project duration from 0 to 45 and each project activity and the duration with floating dates. So accordingly, the labor resource for each day, each 5-day groups, each week can be identified like this. Project A, for which the labor requirement is 0. So no workers required for the first activity for the first week. But for coming second week, there are parallel projects going, parallel activities going on, depending on the labor requirements. It's 10, and here again 10. So likewise. So for certain weeks, we need to have 10 workers. For certain other weeks, we need to have 8 workers, 6 or 2. So to manage labor force with the float time, we can be ready in advance. That is the purpose of it. In this case, this is labor, but there can be machines or any other resources that we will have to maximize. For that, scheduling is identified. What is the technique we discussed? we call it critical path. CP. Not only scheduling, when it comes to project controls as well. Right? Control that we discussed here, discussed earlier. Project controlling, that is to monitor the resource requirements and project completion, cost, quality, and budgets. So based on project controls, we will come to know whether we are managing the project as planned or lagging behind or ahead of the project. Same as for resources, budgets, deadlines. So according to the feedback we get, we will be able to revise the project plan and check the resources among different tasks and all and manage it efficiently. There are computerized tools. Especially we generate various reports and identify how to maximize the resource utilization. So when it comes to project controlling, well, there are various software solutions for this. Oracle, Primavera, Mindview, HP projects, Fast Track, Microsoft projects are the common software packages used for this. And these are heavily useful in generating all the project related reports. Like this. Cost breakdown for each task, labor requirements, cost and hour summaries, raw material forecasts, expenditure forecasts, variance reports, time analysis reports, work status reports, and all the other things. They're generated through the systems now. Now, coming to the end of it, like not just the planning, scheduling, but we call them project expediting, project crashing, right? That is to finish projects on time or earlier than scheduled. Sometimes that is needed. We originally scheduled it for 6 months. Halfway through, client may require it within 5 months. So how can project managers will be pressurized? Now this should be ready by 5 months. Halfway. So then they will have to plan how to complete the remaining work within the remaining time with the available resources. And for that, they'll have to expedite ways to complete their work. And for that, there are these two techniques. We are not going to discuss much about it. To each, there are different tools and techniques. But I will just show you these two strategies to do that. One is called smoothing and the other one is called leveling. Smoothing refers to moving non-critical tasks within their flow times to smooth out the peaks and troughs only within that time, so that project duration is not affected. We won't be able to shorten the project duration. But leveling refers to moving both critical and non-critical tasks in order to fit labor requirements or any other materials availability and all, and to address such, and thereby project duration will be increased. The same manner, if you want to decrease the project duration, of course, we'll have to compromise the scope little bit, quality little bit, and the cost would be a little higher, and the project time can be reduced. That's also by changing the project times. We call it project crashing. All these are coming under this area, this topic, what we call project management. As I told you at the beginning, project management itself is a subject, But in this topic, we try to understand how to use project management for operations. So this is only one part of this one part. Okay. So we define what projects are in operations, where we will have to use projects, especially as cleaning professionals, so accounting professionals, where you will have to use them. Then we identified how to define project management. That has 3 levels: project planning, project organizing, and project control. At each of these steps, there are different tools, techniques used. We discussed several techniques for project planning and then project scheduling. That's the main part of it. So then we identify with an example and your own example also how to identify project activities and schedule them, and accordingly calculate the project times and decide critical paths, and hopefully there will be a question out from this point. You understand? Okay. Not just the calculation, it will know different parts. This is your knowledge of project. You have two options, taking 5 to 10 minutes in-class break and continue for 20 to 25 minutes. Second option, taking lunch break early and start the second half. Second session will be there. Now, what is then? Break. What's the option? Early break. Early lunch break. Thank Allah. So, at what time you will come back there? 12:35 or so. So, anyway, we'll leave early today. Probably around 4:15 or so, we can leave if it is sometime. So, come around 12:30, 12:35 maximum.